First of all, don't give me an inspirational speech while you're wrapped around him like a koala. This is the first video that I'm filming that is close to midnight right now. Half of this is due to bad time management because I just got home, but I'm also leaving to go out of town tomorrow, so this is really the only time that I can film right now. And the other half is because usually when I make these types of roast videos, I gather all the quotes I highlighted and I kind of use that as a way to guide me through summarizing every shenanigan that happens in this book. And Haunting Adeline has over 100 quotes that I highlighted. I honestly don't think I'm gonna finish this video tonight. I'll probably have to film the rest of it another time, so you'll probably see me bounce around in the lighting change. I might even have to split the video into 2 parts because I fear how much time this will take me to go through the whole book. I'm actually holding back from a lot, but even the things I share, it's gonna be a lot to swallow, literally. For some people, like Miss Addie, these hefty books were delivered to me very kindly by Liz. Quite a few people had told me to read Haunting Adeline. I never thought I would because it wasn't available at my library and I sure as hell was not gonna be buying it. Liz, being a good Samaritan, decided to buy it for me, and it was very much a surprise when I opened the box in my mail, and I was very confused because I was like, wait, how did this person even have my address? It turns out that Liz figured out a loophole. If you scroll down deep into the descriptions of my videos, I usually have a bunch of links there. One of the links is my Amazon wish list, but it turns out if you order something from the wish list, you have the option to add other stuff on top of that. So Liz, again, very kindly brought me 2 bowls that I actually use every single day, so thank you for that. But she used that as kind of like the Trojan horse to sneak in these books to my delivery as well. So out of respect for her figuring out a way to hack the system, this video goes out to you. Liz, if you're watching, I know you are. This is gonna be dedicated to you. I do want to preface that this is gonna be the only time that I do a roast video by request because I don't want people to just buy stuff for me in the hopes that I'll make a video. So don't try to pull a stunt like Liz did. This was like a one-time thing only. Let me introduce to you this series. Haunting Adeline is basically a dark romance novel. I believe it was published by an indie author, but it became so popular on Book Talk, which is a community of book lovers on TikTok, that it has just become a well-known name on its own. As I read this book, I learned that the plot is basically about a woman named Adeline, or Addie, who forms a relationship with her stalker. Also, to add to the atmosphere, she moves into this seemingly haunted house that she inherited from her great-grandmother. And it turns out that the great-grandmother's story has some parallels to her own because apparently the great-grandmother was killed in the house and had her own stalker that she also fell in love with as well. The book has a lot of trigger warnings, and since I'm going to be diving into the book, naturally this video will have it as well. A lot of people warned me about it when they found out I was going to read the book. A lot of people even told me that they dropped the book because of how triggering it was. But honestly, when I read it, I did not find it triggering. I just found it corny as hell. Still, it is good to be safe, so here's a warning for you that this book basically covers people getting killed, sexually assaulted, sold, tortured. A lot of the victims involved are children. It gets pretty graphic when it comes to like the main guy torturing the predators that are behind this, but the children suffering from these crimes are not being described. And it's not like endorsing these crimes at all. It's doing the opposite because the main guy is very much against that. I will say though, there is a deep misunderstanding about how human trafficking actually works, but we'll talk about that later. There's also gunplay involved, which is when you're doing some sexy times and you decide to introduce a gun up your coochie. The only thing that makes me uncomfortable is the fact that this video would definitely get demonetized. I believe that if I'm gonna be putting in all this effort, I need to at least be compensated for my suffering. So I would like to thank Ground News for being today's sponsor. I'm always an advocate for reading critically, whether that's books or the news, but media literacy feels like a dwindling thing sometimes because of the constant misinformation that's out there. And that's why Ground News is a great tool because they gather related articles from over 50,000 sources so you can compare how different outlets cover the same story. As someone who is pro-Palestine but also a citizen of a country that funds Israel, it would be extremely naive for me to read the news and not believe that it's biased. So when I read a story that's on Ground News, for example, I'm looking at how many news sources have covered this and how many lean left or right. This is an example of a story where it has over 50 news sources and I can already tell that it leans heavily right. And if I scroll down, I can see every article about this topic and compare the headlines. And I can see which ones have high factuality and if the sources are from media conglomerates or the government or wealthy private owners. I also appreciate that I'm seeing news that are from other countries and not just in America too. If you sign up through my link, you'll get 40% off of the Vantage plan, which is what I use to get unlimited access to all of the features. Ground News is doing important work and making a positive difference difference. So I hope that you guys check them out. And now let's get back to the video. Okay, so my plan tonight is to basically summarize the book and get as far as possible before my camera dies. To save ourselves some time, we're not going to talk about the grandma side plot because that shit was pointless and it was boring and it didn't lead up to anything. I want to start off with reading an excerpt from the prologue, which basically summarizes the kink that this book is catering to. I don't know why it excites me. Something must be wrong with me. It's not normal for liquid heat to course through my veins, leaving tingles burning in its wake. It's not common for my mind to start wondering about things I shouldn't. Can he see me now, wearing nothing but a thin tank top, my nipples poking through the material, or the shorts I'm wearing that barely cover my ass? Does he like the view? Of course he does. Again, I'm only sharing this to just simply give you information about the kind of stuff that we're gonna get into. And I'm not here to yuck anyone's yum. Like, I get it. Some girlies are into this as a fantasy, and that's totally fine. But like, this is a thing that people are into, you know, like the fantasy of being stalked by some sexy man and he's out to get you. And like, part of the fun is them running away and then being caught. So let's set up the story and introduce you to Adeline and how she meets her love interest. She's an indie writer who's doing a book signing at a bookstore when she notices a man standing in the back of the crowd staring at her. His eyes, one so dark and bottomless, it feels like staring into a well, and the other, an ice blue so light it's nearly white, reminding me of a husky's eyes. A scar slashes straight down through the discolored eye as if it didn't already demand attention. Already the moment that we're introduced to Zade, the love interest, I'm like, girl, not you getting turned on by a husky staring at you. I love dogs, but me personally, if a creepy man was just staring wide-eyed with one black eye and one blue eye like a husky, that personally would not turn me on. But hey, clearly we have different kinks. We also meet Addie's best friend, who is an ethnically ambiguous woman named Daya. Her dialogue throughout the book is basically telling Addie that she needs to get laid. That's like the only thing that the friend cares about. Addie, you need to get laid. In response, I wrap my lips around my straw and slurp my blueberry martini as deeply as my mouth will allow. Daya, my best friend, eyes me, entirely unimpressed and impatient based on the quirk of her brow. I think I need a bigger mouth. More alcohol would fit in it. I don't say this out loud because I can bet my left ass cheek that her follow-up response would be to use it for a bigger dick instead. When I continue sucking on the straw, she reaches over and rips the plastic from my lips. I've reached the bottom of the glass a solid 15 seconds ago and have just been sucking air through the straw. It's the most action my mouth has gotten in a year now. What I find so funny about Miss Adeline is that she, throughout the book, just acts like a porn star. Like, that whole excerpt was basically a script from a bad porno movie. So Daya is determined for Addie to get some action, and she yanks Addie's phone and starts texting on it. Addie asks, "Who are you texting?" I groan, nearly stomping my feet like a child. She gets the phone back and she sees that Daya ended up sexting Grayson, who's like some random guy. The text says, "Come over tonight and lick my pussy. I've been craving your huge cock." The rest goes into how horny I am and touch myself every night to the thought of him. Again, this whole scene is very much bad porno vibes. Even though she's so against her friend doing this, she doesn't cancel meeting up with Grayson and she ends up having bad sex with him later. So I guess Daya's mission was fulfilled very easily. We see them hooking up and Grayson is clearly a scrub and someone we don't care about, and honestly neither does Addie. "Fuck Addie, I've missed you." Grayson breathes into my neck, humping me against the wall. My tailbone is going to be bruised in the morning. I roll my eyes when he slurps at my neck again, groaning when he rolls his dick into the apex of my thigh. I'm sorry, you have a man slurping your neck and humping you against the wall? What is he, a dog? You need to go neuter him. At least the husky that was staring at you wasn't trying to hump your leg. Fortunately, they get interrupted when she hears some banging against the door of, again, the house that she recently moved in, and she gets spooked because already this house is kind of creepy. But because he's a typical straight man, he still wants to have sex anyway, and she's like, "What the hell, dude? I'm obviously not in the mood anymore." And he gets mad about it. "You serious?" he questions, anger sparking in his brown eyes. They're a shitty color, just like his shitty personality and even shittier stroke game. The dude gives fish a run for their money, the way he flops when he fucks. Might as well lay out naked in the fish market. He'd have a better chance of finding someone to take him home. That person is not going to be me. Okay, so this is clearly to contrast how her actual love interest with blue eyes and bigger dick is gonna be so much better than loser Grayson. But I just gotta ask, why are brown-eyed people catching strays here? Sorry I don't look like the dude from The Bear staring straight into your soul. And I wanna give props to her for roasting him and comparing him to like being in a fish market, but it's also like, why are you with him then? Like, I totally believe this dude is a scrub and he's a bad lay, but at some point you also gotta take some accountability for hooking up with him in the first place. Your friend texted for you, but you didn't have to make the arrangements to meet up with him anyway. "You're such a bitch, Addie. All you do is give me blue balls and I'm sick of it. I'm done with you in this creepy fucking house," he sees, pointing a finger at me. "And you're an asshole. Get the fuck out of my house, Grayson." His eyes widen with shock first, and then narrow into thin slits brimming with fury. He turns, cocks his arm back, and sends his fist flying into the drywall. Since I'm not getting yours, thought I'd create my own hole to get into tonight. Fix that, bitch, he spits. This man is so fucking stupid. And obviously he's supposed to be that way, and I feel like this is a tactic that I notice so many authors do when they want to make the bad boy love interest in the book look better. They just make the other guy look so cartoonishly bad and chauvinistic. Like, yeah, obviously guys like this exist, but this is a really low bar here that we are surpassing. And then in chapter 2, we get Zade's point of view, and the book basically switches between Addie and Zade. Zade is a hacker turned mercenary who is like the top-notch expert at his job with no explanation for why he's so good at his job, but he's supposed to be morally gray because he targets pedophiles and traffickers. So he's basically like a dark romance Robin Hood. So there's a couple random scenes where he's doing his job. He's saving women from being trafficked, which I imagine would be quite a complicated mission to go through all of that. Somehow he's able to pull it off very easily, but also somehow the people kidnapping all of these women and trafficking them are always implied to be Mexican. For example, if we jump around a couple scenes where we hear some of the traffickers talking, sometimes they'll be shouting things like kill the puta. One of the scenes that we see with Zade is basically him questioning this dude that he caught and trying to get answers from him and threatening to get those answers. So he's demanding, what does he look like? The guy that he's interrogating sniffles, snot leaks down his chapped lips. The guy says, Mexican, bald, has a scar cutting across his hairline, and a beard. You can't miss a scar, it's pretty fucked looking. I roll my neck, groaning as the muscles pop. It's been a long fucking day. Cool, thanks man, I say casually, as if I haven't been torturing him slowly for the past 3 hours. His breathing calms and he looks up at me through ugly brown eyes. Again, why are brown-eyed people catching strays here? For all the brown-eyed Mexicans that are watching this video, I'm so sorry that they did you so dirty. So the dude is begging for his life and Zade is like, you're a child rapist. Like I'd let you live. There seems to be this trend in dark romance stories where the guy just looks better because he's killing others who are so much worse than him. Like that's how you're supposed to see the love interest, as a dreamy dude. But it's like, I would hope that any love interest would demean pedophiles. I think that's a pretty low bar that you would hope your love interest would believe in. Like, is this really a morally gray badass character, or is this just someone with like common sense and a human conscience? But no, we must insist that he's badass, especially when we go through his inner monologue. It feels like 10 o'clock at night, but it's only 5 p.m. As fucked as it is after dealing with human body parts, I'm in the mood for a mean ass burger. So this dreamy bad boy hunk gets his mean ass burger, and then he goes to wander off into a bookstore, and that's how he spotted Adeline and becomes mesmerized by her. Oh wait, but before we get into that, we need to understand his attitude towards books. Basically, he's better than all of literature. I spared a single glance before moving on. I don't care about fiction books. I only read the ones that are going to teach me something, particularly about computer science and hacking. By now, there's nothing those books can teach me anymore. I've mastered and then surpassed it. Well, we know this guy definitely hasn't read many books about being humble. So apparently the reason why this guy is such a good mercenary and vigilante is because he read a bunch of books about hacking and computer science. I did not know that was like the required reading material, and then you can graduate into being like a bad boy, and then you can just easily track down all these traffickers and kill them. But apparently he's like a genius somehow. What I'm wondering is, how can you surpass every single book about hacking and computers? Are you mega mind? Is your brain just some giant data drive? Before me is a picture of an author that's hosting a book signing. She's fucking incredible. Long, wavy cinnamon hair brush over dainty shoulders, creamy ivory skin with freckles dotting her nose and cheeks, light and sporadic without overwhelming her innocent face. Her eyes are what draw me in, sultry, slanted eyes, the type that always looks seductive without trying. They're nearly the same color as her hair. A brown so light is unusual. One look from this girl and any man would be on their knees. Her lips are pouty and pink, stretched into a radiant smile with straight white teeth. I noted the name below the picture, Adeline Riley. The way that this is such a wish fulfillment for girls with freckles, and of course she has creamy, dewy skin. Somebody put her in a Korean makeup commercial. Adeline Riley, a beautiful name fit for a goddess. She doesn't have that plastic beauty you see lining the magazine rack, though she could easily make it on one of those covers without Photoshop and surgery. Her features are natural. I've seen a lot of beautiful women in my life, fucked a lot too, but something about her captivates me. Feels like a hurricane is at my back, pushing me towards her and leaving no room for resistance. I like how this guy has to reassure us that she is not like other girls because she doesn't look like a fake hoe, but don't worry, she could totally be just as hot as the fake hoes. One asshole beside me keeps picking his nose, his dirty hand touching all over the book he's holding. I glimpse Riley on the cover. Poor girl, forced to sign a book that probably has boogers all over it. I open my mouth, ready to tell the fucker to stop looking for treasure in his nostrils when it feels like heaven's gates open up. In that second, the people in front of us seem to part at the perfect angle, providing me with a clear view. I only see her from the corner of my eye at first, but the small glimpse is enough to send my heart into a tailspin. My head turns like one of those creepy bitches in an Exorcist movie. Slow, but instead of an evil smile, I'm sure I look like I just found out that there's evidence the earth is actually flat or some shit. There's so much to cover here. First of all, what a gentleman. He was so close to telling off that rude man that was picking his nose and telling him to pack up his boogers and move elsewhere. I like that we have graduated from weird husky looking dude to a creepy man in an Exorcist movie who just slowly turns his head around, again staring at you with a piercing blue and black eye. Oxygen, words, coherent thoughts, all that shit escapes me when I get my first look at Adeline Riley in the flesh. Shit. She's even more exquisite in person. The sight of her has my knees weakening and my pulse racing. I don't know if God really exists. I don't know if mankind has ever walked on the moon, nor do I know if parallel universes exist. But what I do know is that I just found the meaning of life sitting behind a table with an awkward smile on her face. Girl, is it really that serious? She is a white girl with freckles. Put a white girl out in the sun for 5 minutes, let her cook, and you can get a dozen of them. What gags me is that this book is supposed to be about how he has such an intense obsession with this girl. You would think that she did anything other than just stand there awkwardly to have captivated him so deeply to the point where he is now a thirsty ass man. But literally all she had to do was just, you know, have freckles. Before we start, ... fuck, her voice is pure smoke, the kind you really only hear in porn videos. I suck in my bottom lip, biting back a groan. The way I would hate to have a creep like this at a book signing, just jacking off at someone's voice and appearance. Turns out B&N doesn't stand for Barnes & Noble, it stands for bust a nut. All I want to do is break her, shatter her into pieces, and then arrange those pieces to fit against my own. I don't care if they don't fit, I'll fucking make them. And I know I'm about to do something bad. I know that I'm going to cross lines that I will never be able to come back from, but there's not an ounce of me that gives a fuck, because I'm obsessed, I'm addicted, and I will gladly cross every single line if it means making this girl mine, if it means forcing her to be mine. Sir, this is a Barnes & Noble. Somebody come get this man and escort him out of the premises, but I would argue that the workers at Barnes & Noble are not getting paid enough to deal with his ass. Anyway, so he's like madly into her for no discernible reason. Ever since then, he breaks into her house, and this is like a constant pattern because this is where the stalking begins. And it's like his whole signature move to leave behind roses as like a way to court her. So at some point during the stalking shenanigans, we follow Adeline hooking up with a man named Archibald. Again, the choices of men that she has beyond the main guy is really so slim, because if you don't have some dude punching a hole in your drywall, you have a dude that literally has bald in his name. Obviously, since Zade is stalking her, he sees that she's been hooking up with Archibald, and he continues texting her from an unknown number. One of the texts says, "Sneaking off with random men, little mouse. If I catch his hands anywhere near you, they'll end up in your mailbox by morning." You know, I appreciate the protectiveness, but why put that gross stuff in my mailbox? Why would you do that? The USPS is already very underfunded. Now, you would think any rational person would call the police if she's getting creepy ass text messages from an unknown number that clearly indicates that he is watching her from afar. But Addie doesn't really seem to mind. Part of me doesn't mind if he's out there. I want to prove something to the deranged man who thinks he owns me. I want to show him he doesn't. The only person who will lay claim to my body is who I allow. I'll allow Arch's hands to touch me. Hands that will trace every inch of my skin, followed by his mouth. I'll let his tongue lick my pussy until I'm sated, right before he fucks me until I no longer know my name. I'll let him because I said he could. Weird logic, but okay. You're saying that you are letting him fuck you to prove that he doesn't own you, but you're fucking him anyway, even though you don't really care about the dude? Like, how is this a gotcha moment? And again, this is a very common thing that I'm noticing in a lot of the roast videos I've been doing, where like the main character is being a dumbass bitch and she's hoeing it up, you know, which is totally fine. But why is it that they always have to be like, this is my choice? Feminism is letting gross men fuck me as long as I say that it was my choice. If anything, it's actually worse that it was your choice because you let this foolishness happen. I'm just saying, if you're gonna be a slut, maybe be a slut with someone whose name isn't Archibald, or with a dude who doesn't think foreplay is humping your leg. Like, surely there are better choices out there. So while she's hooking up with Archibald, Archibald, she feels a movement somewhere around the house, and then she gets spooked out because she knows that he's watching her. Archibald says, "What's wrong?" And she says, "Nothing. Let's go upstairs to my room instead. I'm no longer feeling cocky enough to fuck a man in front of a crazy person. The high from my release has completely dissipated my confidence, but I'm too stubborn to stop. I want Arch. I just don't want any voyeurs while I take him." "You don't want to get your pussy eaten under the stars?" he asks incredulously. This line truly took me out. Archibald, what kind of man are you? What is going on inside that bald head of yours? Truly a mystery. But this guy is slightly better than the previous guy because he goes away to investigate the noises, and she lets him, even though that's pretty dangerous for, you know, his safety. And she's aware of this too because she thinks, "I should have told him I have a stalker, and I thought I saw something when we were in the sunroom, but everything happened too fast, and now he's actively putting himself in danger. The situation turns me on just as much as it terrifies me. I need to check myself into a mental hospital if I survive this night." Girl, you say the situation turns you on. The situation is some dude is stalking you and like trying to kill the dude that you're hooking up with. And you're not even warning the dude that he's probably gonna die because you get kind of turned on from that. You know, for all this effort to make the love interest morally gray, maybe Addie is a little gray herself because she really just let her cooch be top priority over another man's safety. Sure enough, Archibald gets snatched up, and when she goes looking for him, she no longer finds him. Instead, she finds something else. Taking a few short breaths, I moved my foot away and looked down. A rose. The petals crumpled from my foot. "Oh fuck," I mutter, bending down to pick up the rose. The thorns are snipped, preventing it from cutting me, but it doesn't matter. This rose has not been deprived of one's pain. Dripping off the petals and onto my boot is fresh blood. Arch is gone, and all that's left of him is a bloody rose. What is with this guy leaving behind roses and disappearing? Sir, you are not Tuxedo Mask. Only he is allowed to pull off that goofy shit. This is how Archibald got ambushed and snatched up by Zade in the first place. We get Zade's point of view where he's like prowling the perimeters and he's thinking, "Come get me, Archie." He hesitates on the doorstep, sensing the danger residing in the shadows. But after a few moments, he develops a vagina and charges out the door and down the porch steps. His head turns, his eyes widening as he catches a glimpse of my face with a single red rose in my mouth, the stem caught between my teeth. Other than the fact that we are associating cowardliness with genitals, I truly laughed out loud at this part because the visual of this dude running away, turning back, and just seeing some fucking husky man just smiling back in the dark with a fucking rose between his teeth. Again, very goofy. Here we see that he has kidnapped and tortured Archibald for daring to sleep with Addie, even though I'm pretty sure like a few chapters ago we were so into the fact that it was her choice, but apparently Zade doesn't believe in respecting her choices, so Archibald's gotta die. So while he's torturing Archie, Archie's trying to like reason with him and try to convince him this isn't worth it. He says, "Come on, man, are you this worked over a piece of ass? Her voice may be cut out for porn and her pussy tight as fuck, but shit, you can find that in other bitches too. I fucked plenty of them." What was going to be a fairly slow death is now going to be the slowest death to ever happen since the dawn of humanity. It was bad enough that he spoke of my girl in such a disgusting manner, but then he went and topped it off by implying Addie isn't anything special. She's the first of her kind to exist, and there will never be another like her. Someone please tell me how this girl is the first of her kind to exist. She is a white woman who is an indie author, and she probably writes dark romance. The man could have just opened up Book Talk and he could have gotten plenty of these bitches. I also find it very hypocritical that he's mad at Archie for talking about Addie this way and describing her to be like a porn star and talking about her in such a disgusting way, but he was literally saying the same thing a few chapters ago. So Archie is truly wondering, why is this strange man so obsessed with this random girl? I sigh and straighten. I'm not going to bother explaining myself to this prick. He won't understand my obsession, and I don't give a shit enough to want him to. What a convenient way to not explain to the readers why you're so obsessed with her, and that's the main plot of the book. So he kills Archie by stabbing a screwdriver into his stomach. Later on, Addie does indeed receive severed hands in her mailbox. Still, she does not call the police, and her justification for this is that she doesn't want anyone to get hurt. I'm like, girl, why are we concerned about the safety of the police here? Who the fuck cares if they get hurt? A cab. Fortunately, her friend offers to set up a security system for her and also offers for Addie to stay at her place. Fun fact about this friend, the friend conveniently happens to be a hacker as well. She also happens to track down predators around the dark web. And as I learned about this, it made me wonder, wouldn't it make more sense for Zade to fall for the hacker instead of basic bitch Addie, since, you know, the hacker friend actually shares the same interests and goals and common values in life as he does? But nah, that would make too much sense. She doesn't have a porn voice like Miss Addie does. Still, even though she is at her friend's friend's place, Zade is still able to hunt her down. The man stops about 20 feet away, his face once again hidden deep in a hood. He widens his stance as if getting comfortable, plunging a hand into his hoodie pocket and pulls out something I can't see. It's not until I see him flick a lighter, enunciating his impossibly sharp jawline and a cigarette sticking out from his mouth. He lights the cigarette and then the flame goes out, leaving nothing but his moonlit silhouette and a blaring cherry. I like how even in the scary stalker situation where he can find you no matter what, it still must be observed that he's hot and looks like an Abercrombie model. I'm glued to the chair, panting from the heady mix of fear and arousal. My cheeks burn from shame, but the feeling doesn't dissipate. I should close the curtains, do myself a favor and cut us both off from our silent war. But for some unknown reason, I can't get myself to move, to pick up the phone and call the police, to do anything that would classify me as intelligent and having common sense. Wow, it's almost like if we call out her lack of critical thinking, then that somehow excuses it in the story instead of explaining why she's a dumb bitch. However, her stalker wanders off and nothing ends up happening that night, so she gets Lady Blue Balls. Later on, we cut to his perspective where you truly see what a bleeding heart he has. We also get a glimpse into his very complicated work as a hacker. An array of computer screens line the 10-foot long desk and all my other illegal devices in here. Jammers, trackers, buttons that set off explosives in a number of places should someone betray me, and so on. This room alone is worth millions with all the shit I have in here. It's both my happy place and my living nightmare. This is where I make a difference in the world, where I find women and children who need saving, while also witnessing the torture those sick individuals put them through. It takes money to infiltrate high security buildings, rescue the girls, and give them sanctuary and safety off the grid. I roll the rose harder through my fingers, faster. The sharp thorns slice through my flesh. The small amount of pain offers me a semblance of release. Sometimes witnessing the torture these kids go through makes me want to slice open my own skin and feel the pain alongside them. I want to ease their pain by creating my own. Maybe if I'm bleeding out on an altar next to them, they won't feel so fucking alone. Dude, get a fucking grip. He is trying so hard to make us think that he is so selfless. We get it. He is a good Samaritan and just wants to help all the innocent children out there in the world. You don't have to be so fucking dramatic about it. Most people would want children to be safe in the world. Also, by now, you're probably trying to give him the benefit of the doubt and thinking maybe he has some tragic background story and that's why he cares so deeply about this, and we'll find out why later, why he's so dramatic about it. Actually, he literally has no reason to do this shit. Like, I will read out loud a line to you where he literally says he has no reason. But again, we'll get to that later. So after he's angsting about how much of a good person he is, he later comes back to stalk Addie, and this time she wants to taunt him. Eyeing him, I pick up my phone, stand directly in front of the window, and put the phone to my ear. I haven't even dialed the police yet. I just want to see what he'll do, because evidently there's something wrong with me. I'm playing with fire. The more I provoke him, the more likely he is to come after me, but I can't stop myself. I can't stop the sharp thrill that I get every time I push back. It's as addicting as it is stupid. I can't see his face under the deep hood, but I know he's smiling at me. Knowing that doesn't give me the reaction it should. I should be repulsed. I should be scared. I suppose I am scared, but what I'm really feeling is the urge to smile back. This is how you know someone has never truly experienced danger, because this would actually be scary to someone and not fun. Like, there are so many women out there who legitimately deal with stalkers and are fearing for their lives to the point where they are so afraid to go outside and to just exist in their everyday lives. And meanwhile, this girl's like, I'm feeling a little silly. Anyway, so we see more stalking shenanigans. They're trying to play this cat and mouse game. Then she finally calls the police when she sees him outside the window. So the police show up and she observes the cop is an overweight man with short blonde hair and a ruddy face. What's going on here, ma'am? He asks, huffing and puffing as he makes his way up the front porch. This took me out because I'm like, why the random fat phobia here? I mean, yeah, ACAB, but why are fat people catching strays now too? It really is hard out there to be a brown-eyed bitch and to be a fat bitch. Truly, for real. And if you're Mexican, you pretty much are gonna be the #1 suspect according to this book. He asks me a few more customary questions. Do you have a description? Do you know who he might be? And so on. I give him all the information I have, except what's most important. I don't tell him about the text messages. I don't know why, but they feel ... private, which is fucking stupid. Makes no sense, but I can't bring myself to say anything. The police officer leaves with absolutely no helpful information, but he still leaves with a police report, and that's what's important. This whole passage, she is saying over and over how stupid she is. Again, just because you are saying that you're stupid and you're acknowledging this doesn't absolve you from your stupidity. A character acknowledging that she's stupid doesn't mean that her stupidity makes any sense. The self-awareness doesn't suddenly cancel it out here. So she doesn't tell the police about the text that she got, but she does finally admit to her hacker friend later about the text. Shame creeps in. I should have told her this sooner, but I had a weird protective need to keep the text to myself, just like with the police officer. Now I realize how stupid that is when Daya is one of the best hackers in the world. I nod sheepishly and hand her the phone, the thread already pulled up. She snatches it from my hand, shooting me a heated glare, and reads through them. Her eyes draw back to my own, fire licking at her pupils. You're just now showing me these? I groan. I know I'm a stupid bitch. I just ... I don't know, Daya. I honestly don't. Can you trace them? Girl, you can't just be like, I know, I'm just a stupid bitch. Like, you can't just be doing that and then your friend's gonna be like, oh, okay. At least you knew that you were being a stupid bitch. The first step is always admitting it. I guess this is what every writer can do every time they make a character act irrational and unrealistic for the sake of plot advancement. Just make them say, I'm a stupid bitch, and then move on. So later on, Addie and Zade have a confrontation. This is when he actually breaks into the home and she retaliates by stabbing him, but he doesn't show pain, and he actually does like a reverse Uno and has a blade at her, and then he proposes a game of hide and seek. And this is where we truly explore their kink here. So literally he gives her the chance to run off, like he's like, you have 5 seconds, and she's like, okay, don't catch me. He growls in delight. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to allow you the opportunity to run and hide. If I find you, then I will deliver your punishment. If I don't, you go unpunished and I will leave. I pinch my eyes shut, a small single strand of hope threading throughout the hysteria. I know this house like the back of my mind. I know where the good hiding spots are. Not this bitch being so eager to play his game while he's counting 1, 2, ready or not, here I come. Or rather, here you come. This entire book is just a goofy game of hide and seek between 2 horny perverts. So Addie does a very lame job of hiding and she obviously gets caught. Before I can react, he's lifting me up and tossing me over his shoulder like a sack of potatoes. Fucker, I snap, banging my fist against his back. I am not a potato. There are just so many lines throughout this book where I really had to pause it and think, this is some goofy ass shit that I'm reading. You think you're only going to beg because you're fighting for your life, but that's where you're wrong. The only way I'll be sending you to heaven is with my cock. And definitely my tongue and fingers too. I just know God is watching from above and he's just like, I don't remember this being part of the rules. I don't think I ever talked about this in the Bible or anything. Y'all are on your own. And as abruptly as this video transitioned to another evening, so too did this book transition abruptly from potatoes to gunplay. In this scene, he takes out a gun, makes her suck on it, and then shoves it up her coochie. As I'm summarizing this, I want you to understand that despite these quick summaries, these scenes in actuality are written very extensively across multiple pages. I'm just trying to practice brevity here because if I read every single ridiculous line, this video will never end. However, I must read this part. Can never be too wet, can you, little mouse? Sitting up, he circles my entrance with the tip of the gun, the metal slipping against my skin. Oh my god, please don't. This time, my words are cut off from the feel of him dipping the gun past my balls, just the tip, but enough to close my throat, only allowing a startled squeak to escape. He laughs cruelly. You even sound like a mouse. Not this girl making mouse noises when she's getting turned on from gunplay. What are you, Gus Gus from Cinderella? Imagine a dude thrusting your coochie with a gun, and you're just like, anyway, that was the takeaway that I wanted to leave with this gunplay scene. Sure, I could go ahead and milk the entire scene and read you multiple lines, but believe it or not, we have so much to go through, so moving on. As we go through the book, he continues to stalk her house for several nights. In another confrontation between them, it's revealed that he actually deleted her police reports. Like the rare times she ever made a police report, he went ahead and wiped it out anyway, because again, he is a mastermind hacker. For someone who's so busy using his powers for good, you know, with saving the children and women, he still managed to find time to remove police reports against an actual crime that he's doing. I've been deleting them since she started making them and sent a guy in to destroy any physical evidence. The policemen will recall going to her house, but the second they tried to investigate, if they ever got off their asses, that is, they would have nothing to go off of. Not that stalking cases are ever taken seriously anyways, which is why so many women end up murdered. Wow, I'm so glad that a man is so aware of the stalking statistics out there and how women aren't heard or listened to while he is stalking someone and not listening to her saying no. Sure, Sure, Addie may have a stalker, but at least he's woke about it. And then to balance out his creepiness, we also follow Zade on a side quest later on to take down some rapists. I enter into what looks like a foyer with gold tile flooring, black walls, and obscene chandelier. Gold frame pictures of the founding members of the Gentlemen's Club line the walls, or in other words, a bunch of fucking rapists line the walls. Men in business suits smiling at the camera and probably still riding the high from raping a little girl or boy. They all look the fucking same to me. I walk down the hallway, the creepy men staring at me from either side the whole way down, while music with a heavy bass emanates from somewhere ahead of me. I'm keeping the earpiece tucked safely away in my jacket until it's needed. It took 5 minutes to get in this godforsaken place because Detective Fingers from security wanted to thoroughly investigate my ass crack. I had to spend several minutes lecturing him about what would happen if his fingers brush up against my asshole one more time. You gotta admire a man on a mission. However, I notice he seems to be very protective of his butthole. Perhaps he doth protest too much. Because later on, when he's trying to blend in with all the other disgusting dudes at this gentleman's club, he's playing poker with them. It's like a very macho scene where they're trying to like measure each other's dick sizes basically. It says, he offers me a cigar and I take one, but I'd let Detective Fingers finger blast my ass before I put it out on a girl's arm. I'll have to figure out a way to stop him without breaking his neck if he tries it again. This line is meant to show that he's better than the other men on Rapist Alley, because while the other men are putting cigarette scars on the women's flesh, he would never do that to them. That's why he's such a hero. But again, why is he still talking about his asshole when he's around all these macho men? But the most important priority is insisting how much better he is than other dudes, because while they are cheating on their wives with strippers, he knows that Addie will never have to worry about that. Addie won't ever have to worry about that shit when I marry her. That's for damn sure. She doesn't even have to worry about it now. The only pussy I want wrapped around my cock for the rest of my life is hers. You just really have to love a gentleman here. Like they say chivalry is dead, and then you just read a line like that and you think, wow, maybe romance is real after all. Finally, in this day and age, we really have to appreciate a man who commits to monogamy. At some point, he's able to get a quiet room where it's just him and this other stripper, and he tells her that he's gonna help her. As soon as I get her into a quiet room, I turn to her. She's already dropped to her knees, her green eyes looking up at me with sorrow and acceptance. She's a beautiful girl with bright red hair, grass green eyes, and freckles dotting her nose. Something about her reminds me a little of Addie, and I nearly walk right back out and crush my fist in Mark's face just for touching her. Get up, I say firmly. She gets to her feet unsteadily, looking much like a baby giraffe walking for the first time. I'm gonna get you out of here, I say. Her brow puckers and she frowns. Sir, what's your name, sweetheart? She stutters over the question. Cherry. I shake my head. Is that your real name or stage name? She rolls her lips. Real. Her parents are really fucking unoriginal. Like, might as well have a second child and name her Strawberry or Watermelon. Anyway, besides the point. How would you feel about getting a fresh start in life, yeah? I like how in this scene where it's clearly wish fulfillment for this dude to feel like a hero by saving this poor woman, but this whole hero monologue is like briefly interrupted by him making fun of her name. It's so weird to me when I read an excerpt like this and know that a woman is writing this book, because it sounds so much like a typical male fantasy and hero complex to rescue this helpless woman who has the brain of a toddler, literally describing her like a baby giraffe, and him being the gruff macho man who's saying, I'm gonna get you out of here, Cherry. Cherry, you're not going to a place where you'll ever be questioned about something like that. You and your family will be taken care of and safe, I promise. All I ask is that you do something meaningful with your life. That's all. A single tear slips from her eye. She hurriedly wipes it away and nods. Her brightened eyes shine with hope. And doing this shit, involving myself in the worst of humanity, it's all worth it when I have a survivor look at me like that. Not like I'm a hero, but like they can actually envision a future. Bitch, be for real here. What is this, freedom riders? Are you a teacher that's helping a bunch of minority students living in the slums make a future for themselves? Are you gonna help her enroll in community college now? Like, what's going on here? The fact that he gets off on her looking at him like he is her savior just goes to show that this dude has a major hero complex. It's a very self-absorbed. Like, why can't you just be a normal person and get your kicks off of rescuing pit bulls or something? The cameras will be spliced. If anyone reviews them, they'll see me dragging a dejected Cherry into a room and us walking out separately. It's one of my specialties that I mastered and then trained Jay in, taking parts of a camera feed and manipulating them to look exactly how you want them to, without even the best hackers being able to detect manipulation. I crack my neck and ready myself for a very long night of shooting the shit and becoming BFFs with a fucking pedophile. First of all, we're sentenced to write but okay. I get that this is part of his mission because he's gotta like play undercover, but if it gets to a point where you can write a sentence like this with a straight face, I don't know. Perhaps there are other ways to go about it. Second of all, what he just described with manipulating camera footage is literally just what I do with iMovie every time I cut a scene. I don't know why we're talking about it like this is some mastermind hacker move. Anyway, we switch over to Addie's point of view. She finally admits to her friend that last time that she met with her stalker, she actually had egged him on in a text, and that resulted in him breaking her in, tying her up, and at first she kind of freaked out, but then she ended up writing his face. So things escalated very quickly. I put my hand on hers. Daya, ... well, it wasn't consensual, ... at first. I say the last part like a question, embarrassed that I'm even admitting something like that. She blinks. At first, she echoes. Meaning what? He was that good and he changed your mind? My hands cover my face, but she forces them away, nearly bumping her nose into mine as she intently waits for an answer. You have such pretty eyes, I tell her. She snarls at me. Spill, slut. I close my eyes with a resigned sigh. That man ate my soul out of my body, and I don't think I've gotten it back yet. I get that the main character isn't taking this thing seriously because this is her kink. But why is the best friend acting like this is a gossip session when she's supposed to be worried about her safety? Especially since the stalker broke into the house that Addie was staying in, aka the place that the friend set up with the security systems. Wouldn't she be more concerned that apparently this dude was able to get through this stuff that she's a professional in? And considering that the friend is also a hacker and has all of these important secret projects for her hacking job, wouldn't she be concerned that this is becoming a work conflict and her own personal files have been manipulated and damaged while this stranger broke into her own property to get with her friend? Also, if your best friend is telling you at any point when they were with another man and it wasn't consensual, whether it was in the beginning or in the end or whatever, my personal response to that wouldn't be spill slut, like we're kikiing over brunch and margaritas. But I guess she just has different priorities. And later on, Addie gets drunk with her friend. Addie's kind of stumbling around the house now that she's inebriated. Her friend says, how are you gonna get yours off? She asks, staring at my jeans. I wave a hand. I'm sure the stalker will help me, I retort. She widens her eyes comically. If he puts his peen in you, record it. I wanna watch it later. Does the friend just not care anymore about her safety? Because in the beginning, she was so concerned enough to set up all the security system. Now she doesn't give a fuck anymore and she's just like asking for it like it's a bad porno. Of course, this doesn't matter later on because it turns out that the love interest, aka Zade, the stalker, is actually Daya's boss, which makes sense because they're like the only two hackers in the whole book, which means that of course they are related to each other in some capacity because obviously all the hackers in the world know each other. So after a drunk girly night gossiping over non-consensual intimacy, Addie and her friend go to sleep in separate rooms, and then Addie wakes up to Zade because once again he broke into the house because the friend has stopped giving a shit about the security system. You know, I start stumbling as I try to get the pant leg around my foot. Who the fuck invented skinny jeans and why am I wearing them? I don't even know your name. You never asked, is his reply. I'm asking now, kitty cat. Finally, I get my foot through the hole and slide my leg out. I straighten and look at my free leg in victory. One down, one to go. You know, I say again before he can even open his mouth, I do quite like calling you kitty cat, but it wouldn't sound so good when you're screaming it, he taunts. I snort. You don't think so? I bet I could make it good. Girl, please spare us from this. Can you imagine someone screaming kitty cat during sex? Oh wait, we don't have to imagine because the audiobook plays it for us.
I grind on the pillow, tip my head back and moan out, "Ugh, kitty cat."
A gasp bursts from my throat as he wrenches my head roughly to his pelvis right as he pulls out his cock. Fuck. Fine. Okay. So maybe his dick is the exact opposite of puny and would surely kill me if he did decide to choke me on it. And maybe it wouldn't be the worst way to die when it's the most mouth-watering thing I've ever seen. It's otherworldly. He holds his cock in his hand and my pussy weeps in response. I'll never tell him how glorious he looks because right now I want to fucking chop it off. Just like he did with Arch's hands. He wouldn't be a man without his cock and I wouldn't have to worry about him using it as a weapon and crushing my windpipe. Then he tells her to show him how wet she is after she sucks his dick and swallows his cum, and he commands her to put a finger in there and show him. So she puts her middle finger and shows him. Like, so she's basically fingering herself with, you know, this digit right here. Then he grabs that middle finger and sucks it while rolling his eyes back. These two are just freaks who think that they're being edgy. They might as well do it in the back of a Hot Topic. Later on, we follow Zade on his side quest again to infiltrate Mark's crew of pedophiles. To give some context, Mark is a senator that Zade has been trying to get cozy with in order to get his trust. As Mark drones on about some bill he doesn't want to pass, a couple and their kid walk past us, the little girl talking animatedly. She looks to be about 5 years old. Cute girl with a ponytail, big big doe eyes and dimples. I see the sly look on Mark's face before he even registers what he's doing, and it takes physical restraint not to reach across the table, point his butter knife upright, and slam his head down on it. Instead, I make a split-second decision. The family is walking past Mark, beyond his view. When his head swivels back to me, I lean to the side and pretend to check out the little girl. I look just to the right of her at a plate of food. I'd rather slit my own throat than look at a child in a sexual manner, but it looks authentic to Mark. I let the predatory look linger on those chicken tenders for a few seconds before I'm straightening and feigning innocence, but I feel Mark's gaze burning into me. As much as it sickens me, I need him to think I have an interest in the depraved things he does. An hour passes while I continue to pretend to show interest in underage girls, looking right above their heads at their food or whatever else that's close enough to feed the illusion. Nothing too obvious, and I don't do it every time as not to be suspicious, just subtle glances here and there. Bro, you telling me that you spent an hour ogling some little girl and pretending that you're into kids so that you could save those little kids? This shit is getting weird. This whole plan is getting real convoluted here. Also, why are we pretending little Miss Susie is gonna be trafficked? Some random girl who's just walking with her parents in a restaurant in broad daylight in public? This is how I know the author doesn't actually know how trafficking works, because they're not gonna snatch up some random little girl like that. The ideal victim for traffickers isn't little Miss Susie, who has a loving family and is out in public. The ideal victim for many of these situations are often girls of color who don't have a family or have very dysfunctional, fucked up relationships with their family, so that they're vulnerable to these kinds of situations, because the ideal victim doesn't have any connections to other people. Another person who's also at the restaurant is Addie. What a coincidence. And Mark also notices Addie in the restaurant, so he calls her over and she realizes that Zade is on a weird mission with this sketchy dude, and she uncomfortably tries to go through the conversation that this guy has looped her in. And so Zade is automatically feeling defensive and protective because, you know, this is like a bad guy that he's dealing with. He doesn't want Addie to be involved. So in order to protect Addie, he pretends that she's already his girlfriend. Still, the fact that now Mark knows that this girl is chummy with Zade gives him enough incentive to invite both her and Zade over to a party that he's hosting. Listen, I'm hosting a charity event at my house next weekend. It would be my absolute honor if you both could attend. Oh, I don't know, ... Addie says, the discomfort renewed. Last thing she wants is to pretend to be my girlfriend any longer than she has to. Wonder what she's going to do when we're married and her belly is swollen with my child. Quite the predicament she'll be in there. Sir, there was no need to escalate it that quickly. You just jumped from point A to the number 69. Like, we weren't even talking about that. You just got her involved in a very dangerous situation. We do not have time to think about you impregnating her. Please, I would be insulted if you didn't show. Zach here has been a wonderful friend, and I would be heartbroken not to see you two there. If you like, we can talk further about your great-grandmother's case. With my father being so close to your family, I was around John and Gigi quite a bit growing up. In fact, Sarah and I played together all the time. I'm sure there's some potential information rattling around in my head. Fucker, he's manipulating her, and that's a big no-no. No one manipulates my girl but me. Wow, don't you love it when a man is possessive and sees someone manipulating his girl, and he's like, wait a minute, only I can be the problematic one here. After Mark leaves, Zade reassures Addie that he will protect her and says that he's gonna take care of it. She says, taken care of how? You're just going to murder him too? Of course I am. Slowly too. Start with snipping the Achilles heel so he can't run. And then, that's fucked up. You're going to jail, she cuts in, disgust curling her lips. Actually, I hope you go to prison and are sentenced to death. She turns with a snarl, but she doesn't make it a step before my hand snaps out, capturing her arm and whipping her back around directly into my chest. Addie inhales sharply, her eyes dilating as I seize the back of her neck with one hand and grab her delectable ass with the other, lifting her up against my body. Will you be my last meal, baby? This shit is so goofy. It's like a parody. This is why so many times I had to stop the book and just be like, did I even read that right? How can any woman take a man seriously when he's saying this goofy ass line like this? Her mouth parts and her breathing hitches. Those light brown eyes are wide and swollen with emotions. Shock, awe, desire. I lean in close, my mouth hovering a mere inch from hers. You taste like heaven. I could feast on a sweet little pussy for hours and still die a starving man. It'll be the closest I will ever get to God before they inject me with that needle. Don't you agree? She's speechless, so I take advantage and capture those sweet lips with my own. She tenses beneath my hold, but doesn't pull away. The taste of fruit from her margarita blooms on my tongue, and I can't help but groan. You taste like fucking nirvana, I rasp before sucking her bottom lip into my mouth. The faintest little moan slips free, and it's enough to drive me wild with hunger. I'm ravenous, and only the depths of her body will feed the monster. Addie's hands clench the front of my hoodie as I devour her. The hand cupping her plump ass slides lower until my fingers are brushing across her jean-clad pussy. Cupping her from behind, I lift her higher, grinding my rock-hard cock into her. Her next moan is free of restraint, ringing loud and clear as it vibrates across my tongue. Mommy, are they having sex? The loud voice of little girl breaks the shroud of lust. Addie jerks violently and scrambles back, bumping into her car to get away from me. Penny, get in the car, the mother snaps from somewhere behind me. I can't believe that they are doing this shit in broad daylight in front of children. Children who, according to him, are being hunted by predators. If you're against predators lusting after these children, but you can go ahead and be disgusting in front of them and expose them to this kind of nastiness, this is getting a little bit too hypocritical for my taste here. Anyway, so in a few chapters, they dress fancy to go to a party, but before they even make it to the event, they get so horny in the car that he ends up putting his belt around her throat like a collar and tells him to suck his dick. And then he tightens the belt around so her vision is like blurring and darkening. I fucking dare you, little mouse. You think I won't be able to snap your jaw before your teeth break skin? Try me. I'm tempted, but I believe him. The second my teeth dig too deep, my jaw will end up on the ground and my neck will probably snap if he pulls the belt hard enough. I make sure he sees the rebellion in my eyes. I don't withdraw my teeth, but I don't try to hurt him either. Instead, I do the complete opposite of what he's expecting. I roll my eyes to the back of my head like I just took a bite of the most delectable dessert I've ever had and moan around his cock, vibrations traveling through his length. He curses, the belt loosening a fraction. I work him harder until he's growling deep, the sound feral and surely sending the animals in these woods scattering. A predator is on the loose, but I'm the one bringing him to his knees. Technically, you are the one on your knees. I don't know why we are forcing this girl boss narrative. You were literally about to black out with him choking you like you're Bart Simpson, but sure, you are the one in control here. Fuck Addie, he roars, growling as he floods my mouth faster than I can swallow. His seed slips from my lips and drips down my chin. I can't breathe, can hardly think anymore. My lungs are deprived of oxygen, and just when I think I'm going to black out, he jerks himself out with another grunt, releasing the belt as he does. I suck in a deep breath, coughing and hacking as I try to regain everything I lost. Air, morals, even some of my hair. But I didn't lose my damn dignity, not when I took control of that situation. That was on my terms, not his. Are we sure about this? Why are we pretending that this is some female empowerment shit? Like, just own to the fact that you wanted to be a hoe. And it's okay that, like, you weren't in control of that and he was about to fucking kill you. Like, you don't have to pretend that it was on your terms. We don't have to pretend that you still have your dignity when you're like coughing and hacking like you got a hairball in your mouth. So finally, they make it to the party. Next to Mark must be his wife, an older woman with beautiful red hair, the color of ripe cherries, matching red lipstick and a black dress that seems to hang on her frail body. She widens her lips into a beautiful smile as Mark introduces her to Zade and I. What irks me is he doesn't tell us her name. He just says my wife, as if she's merely a possession and not her own person with her own fucking identity outside of her marriage to this wretched man. So Addie pities the woman for having nothing else going on, and yet the call is coming from inside the house because literally this entire book you have done nothing but be turned on by this man fucking choking you out and strangling you with his belt. Rich words coming from you, girly. Later on, Addie and Zade sneak off from the charity event into a movie theater room, and then they proceed to do the nasty even more. And now the floor at the movies is even stickier, and it's not even from the popcorn this time. Your father is an attorney, is he not? A rule follower. I imagine you got your desire to follow the rules from him, no? She scoffs. No, I didn't learn that from him. I pause to look over my shoulder, giving her a wicked smile. You got daddy issues then? I don't have daddy issues, she snaps. I mean, I don't really. My father has always kind of just ... been there. My mother was such a force that he usually faded in the background. She finishes with another sniff, looking every bit uncomfortable. Well, if you didn't before, you do now, I drawl, my smile growling as I watch a pretty blush stain her cheeks. Her eyes are round and her mouth drops in shock. I want to stick my cock in it again just to give it a better use. Her skills are very refined in that area, and thinking of how she refined those skills makes me murderous for a brief moment. Are you saying you're my daddy? She sputters out incredulously, bringing my attention back to her. That's right, baby, and you're my good little girl. If you were my little girl, I would worship every inch of your body for as long as our souls are tethered to this earth. My tongue would leave no part of you untouched. I nip at her bottom lip, wringing a whimper from her throat. Untasted, I murmur, my tongue darting out, sliding along the seam of her lips. My hand slides up to grip her dainty throat, and I can't stop the deep growl from forming, my fingers nearly wrapping around the entirety of her neck. I could snap it so easily, bruise it, leave my mark with my tongue and teeth. If you were my little girl, I breathed, desire growing dangerously high. Your sweet little pussy would be so full of me, you would forget what it means to feel empty. I would be inside of you so deeply, you would have to cut me out. Then I bare my teeth, squeezing her throat until her face pinkens, overcome with the thought of her trying to do something so futile. You would bleed out before that could ever happen. I would do it, she croaked. jokes. I would take a knife and cut every inch of my skin from my body so nothing would be left of your touch. Not only is their foreplay embarrassing, why are we even talking about her being a little girl when your whole mission is to protect little girls? That's why this shit is kind of weird to me. I mean, props to him for being able to compartmentalize, but I think it's weird that he's talking about how he's so disgusted by the way that men treat little girls, but meanwhile he like has his own little kink with calling her a little girl. I don't know. Again, I don't want to yuck anyone's yum, but it is kind of easy to do that when the writing is so goofy like this. Anyway, so they had sex in a movie theater while he commands her to watch the movie playing, which is some horror movie where a creature kills someone and then somehow that turns her on even more. Basically, her whole kink is fear. Halloween is probably uncontrollable for her. Like, she probably has to change her underwear every hour, every time it's October 31st. Imagine her logging that movie on Letterboxd after they had sex watching that. Like, does that even count at that point if you're barely paying attention? I don't know. Anyway, they go back to the party, and again, to give context, the incentive for Adeline to be at this party and talk to Mark is because he knows some lore about Gigi, who is her grandmother. Because again, there's that random side plot about her grandma that we don't care about. So, Adeline, about your great-grandmother. Gigi was a beautiful woman. Even as a little boy, I remember that clearly. Climbing a mountain would take less energy than what it does to keep my eyes from rolling, has remarked. That would be something Mark latched onto. Gigi was beautiful, but who the fuck cares about personalities, right? Why does she judge Mark for being shallow when the main guy of this book literally fell for her for the same reason? He saw her at a bookstore, he thought she was hot, he compared her to a porn star, and that was it for him to be obsessive with her. That's like the only thing that he's into, really. But sure, Mark is like the bad guy in this instance. Okay. Later on, we see Addie comfort Zade because he's angsting about the children that he could have saved again. I lost a young girl today, he confesses, his voice hoarse and uneven. I swallow, sadness spearing deep in my chest. He pauses and I don't speak, letting him find the words at his own pace. She was very traumatized and wouldn't stop screaming. I wasn't in the building yet. I was still working my way in when I heard the gunshot go off. He pauses, taking a moment to collect himself. I heard the conversation before I killed them. She was fighting them tooth and nail. It didn't matter how much they threatened to kill her. She fought anyways. His hands fists, and every muscle I worked hard to relax stiffens again as Zade fights against his own demons. I pinch my eyes shut, berating myself for what I'm about to do. But if I don't, it would be unforgivable. I would hate myself. Sighing softly, I sit on my butt and wrap myself around him like a koala on a tree, legs and arms around his torso and my head resting against his broad back. Dying isn't the worst thing that happened to her. It's just the worst thing that happened to you and her family. The life she would have had to live would have been far more painful than where she is now. You think it's a good thing she died? He asked. Of course not. Being stolen from her life, her family and friends, and then being put into an incredibly horrendous and fucked up situation is the worst thing that could have happened to her. But dying? Dying is not, Zade. She was screaming because she was fighting against the life that she was being forced to endure the only way she knew how. It wasn't his right to end her life, but he did it anyways, and I hope he suffers for it. But after what they did to her, I know that she's more at peace now than she could have been alive. I told him what I believe to be true. Sometimes people just aren't meant to live through that trauma, a shell of who they could have been, broken and fighting every day not to die. I think if she had lived, she could have learned to be happy again. I think everyone who suffers from internal demons can find that. We're all capable, but sometimes unseen forces take it out of everyone's hands, and maybe that just means they were meant to find their happiness in the afterlife instead. This whole monologue is so weird to me because, first of all, don't give me an inspirational speech while you're wrapped around him like a koala. Second of all, I find it weird to imply that it's fine for someone to die because they've been through enough trauma, because I feel like that kind of insinuates that if you've been through enough shit, then it's better for you to have died than to be alive. And like, I get where she's coming from, but if we're gonna try to be philosophical about it, I don't think that's quite the right way to go. And also, what if there is no afterlife? Not everyone believes in that. Again, I don't want to get too deep because this is a fucking stupid book, but I don't think that death should be the answer to a person who has gone through a bunch of trauma. Like, that shouldn't have been the better solution for someone. I get that she was trying to comfort him, but the philosophy behind that is weird to me. Speaking of weird lines, later on we get to a scene where Addie is talking to her friend. Daya rolls her lips. Speaking of stalkers, are you not going to tell your mom about Zade? I shoot her a look. That's like asking if I'm going to tell her about how one time I let a guy finger bang me in the middle of a concert. Honestly, she kind of ate with that line, and it didn't even have to be a monologue. I feel like sometimes there are goofy lines that are like purposely goofy, and I think the book should stick to that instead of trying trying to find some kind of deep philosophy with that, because that is not working. Okay, I think I'm gonna end this video here and I'm gonna go over to part 2 because I still have so many screenshots to go through. I just know that this one is just too damn long and like I gotta take a break. So I will see you next time.